Sorry about that, guys. I got cut off in the middle of what I was saying. You guys may or may not have noticed, but I'm not a big social media guy. Things I do are, pretty basic. I don't know how to. I'm new to this whole video content stuff, so I will try to see if I can make this one video and I guess edit it to be cohesive. But if not, I guess I'll do part 1 and part 2. But I was talking about, I don't know the extent of why I kept getting messages about chemicals, but I realized that it had to do with, I've got chemicals and mergers and acquisitions. So when I looked into their operations while he was CEO, it appeared to me that there was a lot of activity merging and acquiring different companies around the world. And a lot of the companies that, it's like the steel industry, and some of their biggest clients are like the worst types of businesses for the environment. And they're outdated and not necessary we don't need to be killing the planet and polluting it. All of these industries are just designed to make these people wealthy. So I imagine, knowing his involvement in my story, the impression of him being a stand-up, honest CEO that led that company doesn't really check out anymore. So I'd imagine anybody who wants to do some forensic bookkeeping and look into any weird discrepancies in the money, creative accounting, if you will. Then also, I just happen to have some experience with Superfund sites, specifically, and chemical companies. Dow Chemical in Bristol, PA, right on the water near the Burlington-Bristol Bridge. Used to be Roman Haas, which is another chemical company that Dow Chemical bought their old plant. And my time as a commercial real estate appraiser, a job that, once again, I was very good at. I had expertise in certain things that could have made me very successful in that profession. But I'll tell the story of what happened there as part of the bigger story at the end. But regardless, it was a 300-acre property right near the Delaware River that the Bucks County Redevelopment Authority was looking to buy they were calling it the Gateway into Pennsylvania. So it would have been the first thing that people saw when they crossed over the bridge. So for months, this report that I had written was the largest report I've ever done. It's the most time I spent on one singular appraisal. I ran as a project manager that ran the project for almost 5 years. So once again, I've always been extremely capable, smart, and able to juggle a tremendous amount of having to organize and stay on top, and did it very well for a 5-year span. So the entire narrative about me, like, I can't even take care of myself, has just always been a made up, untrue, fabricated, just, I mean, it's yellow journalism basically on a smaller scale. But regardless, it's a chemical company. I learned a ton about. It was very complicated, like a lot of different zonings, because there was like 7 or 9 parcels of land that I had to. There were all these moving parts, but one of the parcels was a Superfund site, which means it was contaminated with chemicals. So there's like definitely fines and stipulations and things that go along with that. And then you got to work with government agencies. And again, I've worked with government agencies and seen just how crazy all this stuff is. The red tape and how nothing ever actually gets done, that the money just seemingly disappears into thin air. Like, where this money goes to do all the things that need to be done, it just never seems like there's the funding for it. But where does it go? Regardless, the Superfund sites, I was hearing stuff about like contaminated water and just overall like a lot of stuff that they haven't been telling us when it comes to all these companies that are basically becoming monopolies and taking over complete control of industries, and how like the people at the top are just the ones getting rich off of us and still creating these industries that don't even need to exist just so that they can keep making money, while at the same time completely destroying our planet. Yeah, it just seems all like maybe somebody should look into if anything I'm saying is possibly true when it comes to my father-in-law's time as CEO. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe it all checks out. Usually when I keep getting signs telling me something, I just didn't know what that meant for a while. Like, what do I have to do? Why are you telling me this about chemicals and stuff? Like, I had so much other things going on. Like, it was one of those signs that I kept ignoring until just a couple days ago. I was like, oh, so if he's into like death magic and being a part of a Masonic cult, I would imagine has other things that business-wise that don't look great. In the past I've talked about how like the government organizations, and I've made my stance on the Catholic Church very clear, but let me quick talk about some Egyptian mythology for a second. So, Ra is the sun god. He's basically the bringer of light and order to the world, along with like Mot, who bring truth, balance, and cosmic harmony. So Ra was basically the one, and I wrote about him. I did a segment in one of my articles, Gods of the Week, and I talked about Ra. But yeah, he, both day and night, was working. It was like him who rose. There you have that word again, rise. Remember, risen is basically remembering its death and rebirth. Rising from the dead is a metaphor for transformation, healing, the ego death, and then rebirth. So when they were talking about Jesus and risen, that was actually metaphorically speaking about his transformation that he went through. But not only was Ra the sun god, he was also the bridge to the underworld. So every night it said that he would go into the underworld and he would have to I'm trying to find it. Okay, so Apep, also known as Apopis, is the god of chaos and darkness, depicted as a giant serpent or dragon and believed to dwell in the underworld, trying to prevent Ra's nightly journey and the sunrise. So, yeah, Ra would be able to go in between the underworld and the world we live in and this agent of chaos. There's that word or phrase that I've used so often. He was constantly having to battle against Apep, who tried to devour him and prevent the sun from rising every morning. So Ra's represents sunlight creation. He's the king of gods, the father of creation, bringing light into this world, creator of the world and all living things, supreme ruler of the gods, father of all deities. So pharaohs were believed to be sons of Ra. So I've talked in the past about duality and the dark and the light, chaos versus calm, staying balanced, and how we have this imbalance right now, that my main mission here and objective is he stands for enlightenment too, Ra. Like, Think about enlighten. You can look at it as the light from the sun that brightens the world. The light, the visual light, or you could also look at it as the enlightenment of truth, knowledge, teaching. Words matter, but that word is associated with him who brings the light to a dark world, which has been the battle that I've been fighting this whole time. Just keep that in the back of your heads. Next, I spoke about the Akashic Records in one of my posts a couple weeks ago. I described it as basically the library that stores all the information about our past lives, who we were, what our soul contracts are, and what our destiny is, our fate, like what are we, our purpose, what are we here to do? Now, I haven't really asked my guides for access to this. I'm told that I have it. I haven't gone and tried to find anybody else's. This has been me just staying in my lane, focusing on myself and remembering who I was, but I've never gone to the Akashic Records. But there's a lot of people who know how to do this. They know how to find what is already written into your life. It sounds too crazy to be true. I get it. But this entire story is crazy. This entire story sounds like something you would read in a mythological tale. In even the stories in the Bible, we couldn't fathom that they actually happened because of how we just never seen anything like it. We haven't seen the miracles happen. But I've been tiptoeing around a lot of things strategically for reasons. I've kept certain things to myself strategically for reasons. I've learned my lessons when it comes to oversharing or sharing at the right and wrong times. But yeah, all this stuff happens. And the tale is as old as time. The dark versus the light, and the gods and the goddesses and demons and deities and good versus evil is very much alive and well. And we've been ruled by the evil, which wasn't part of the plan for a long time. A lot of these people who are on that side of evil know all the information that I'm sharing with you guys. One of the things that they know how to do is to go into people's Akashic Records. So before you even get a chance to live out your life, they can target you and use you, steal your energy, steal your creativity, steal your money, your property, your land, like anything that is meant for you. there'll be people who use the black magic and the dark forces, the evil deities. And remember, like I gave an example of Zeus and Sisyphus. Like, Zeus just got mad at Sisyphus for ratting him out. Because Zeus was no saint. We're made in the image of gods. That doesn't mean that gods are not flawed. Gods can get tricked, and gods can get angry and make bad choices. We're all connected. It's all one. The creator is the creation. Like, we're made in the same image. So what exists in us exists in the gods as well. So a god can go to the dark side, if you will. And many have. And those are, like, I'm being guided by the universe, and that follows the plan that is meant to be, fighting for the light and the good. I'm working with those. They're the ones. But I have some dark entities that ride for me as well. Like, there's some we just got way too off script, and balance needs to be restored. And there's a lot of these deities, gods, or the divine beings, however you want to look at it, who understand that my role here is important. So when you think about, like, when my story comes out and you see just how I cheated death, I didn't know it at the time that I could have very easily been taken out. This could have gone other ways. I've talked about multiple timelines and things. Part of it, though, is whether you're vibrating at a high enough frequency to understand what's going on. If you don't, and you're stuck on that lower timeline, things could happen differently. Luckily enough, I've always been pretty good at trusting my instincts. Like, now it's like I just know that I'm being guided in the direction I need to be, whether I like where it's guiding me or not. I just do it, which is why tonight it was time to tell the story. But I was just trying to say that I didn't know what exactly was always happening, but I got out of my marriage right in the nick of time. I got out of my situation with Sarah in the nick of time before really bad things were going to happen to me. I had run-ins with other individuals that I immediately realized were not people that wanted good things to happen to me. They had me followed and stalked, and like I was my senses were starting to heighten. I was seeing it all. but I was new to it all. So I was really like figuring it out as I went, just collecting the information and piecing it together little by little, knowing that this was all happening, but needing that time to connect all the dots. But yeah, I don't really remember why I was going down that trail, but yeah, like it's going to come out that they 100% were trying to end my life, just like Ra and Apep. Like, that is a tale as old as time, the darkness versus the light. I'm trying to do good and enlighten people, and just like Apep, these people every night were trying to stop me from doing that. And I have had run-ins, now I remember, I've had run-ins with plenty of the darkest, and like I've been to the depths of subconsciousness that we share collectively. I've seen some things that at some point, if I write the book, it'll be in there, but things that would make normal people like curl up in a ball in the fetal position, like what just happened. But I just had become so unfazed in the darkness. Like, I felt that all this stuff was there trying to harm me. And I later learned the power in not allowing fear to control you. I wasn't afraid of them. Therefore, they held no power over me. So, the universe basically is trying to help you, and it's saying, if you let go of your fear and you push yourself into that zone that is uncomfortable, that's where you find the thing you're looking for. I can attest to that. It's 100%. I would never been able to fulfill my destiny if I didn't. My instincts were forcing me to do uncomfortable things I didn't want to do so I could become my highest self and be on my highest timeline, where I will end up fulfilling this enormous role that I signed up for. There's a lot of people who just choose to let fear consume them all their life. And because of it, they're stuck in the same, what they believe reality. But if they just could heal themselves and push themselves past the fear, they're so capable of, like, you have no idea what your highest timeline and highest self could look like. You would be shocked. I never in a million years thought that I had like creativity like oozing out of my body. But there's a lot of reasons that I will explain at the end of this why I never felt that way. So now that I have all that stuff out of the way, here's the last couple of pieces to tie it together. So I had remembered And one of my first videos ever, I talked about my grandmother and my godfather and my sister's boyfriend, who all at the same time, when I was like 11 or 12, all passed away. My grandmother was like my ultimate protector. She was my person, the only person I ever felt seen by and was looking out for me. Then I was saying, like, you have like, I wasn't close with my godfather, but it was somebody like you grow up thinking that your godfather and godmother are like at least looking out for your best interests, you know, like it's an honor to be one. And then my sister's boyfriend actually would take some time and play basketball with me and at least make me feel seen, because nobody else really did. Especially when my grandmother passed away, I felt like I was on an island, that I was a ghost. My entire family, every party or get together, like I felt I was always alone. I talked about how I had a heart murmur. That's what I'm told. I remember going to the hospital. I would have to go every year or 2 years. They would do like these extensive tests where they would hook me up to all this stuff throughout my childhood. So a lot of poking and prodding. I remember having to be still, and it was at St. Christopher's. Then I don't know if I had talked about this, but at one point I remembered being in like Mathletes or Math Olympia, and also like the gifted and talented program. I had like a very vague memory that was a thing, that I can picture it going to like a room and having to do these tests. Specifically, I remember this hearing test where there were different frequencies, and now I know frequencies and vibration and all the stuff I know about the human mind, subconscious and conscious, and they were messing around with frequencies and vibration, like with these headphones that you would put on. And they were asking like which ones you could hear, like, but this is at school. They would take you out of your class to a different room. I don't remember who was administering the test or anything. But I remember specifically going to a room at our school. I even remember like the hallway where it was. So I had to be in like first or second grade. Maybe Mrs. Abbott's class. So maybe first grade. I somehow just got Abbott in my head, who I always had she was like always very mean to me now that I think about it. But anyway, not until recently do I remember this bizarre thing going down the hallway into a room. The thing that really stands out to me though was the ears listening. So just yesterday I was on YouTube And this video appeared about the Gateway program. I'd never heard anything or seen anything about the Gateway program before. So I clicked on it and said, let's see what this is about. Or the GATE program, I apologize. There's something called the Gateway Tapes, but the program was the GATE program, so it's Gifted and Talented program. So this apparently was a thing that a lot of kids in the 90s, specifically in the 90s, remember the exact memory that I had. Getting taken out of class, going down a hallway, going to a separate room, apparently having this test administered by somebody who didn't work at the school, which, now that I think about it, I feel like I may have remembered it more if it was somebody at the school. So, yeah, there was this program called the GATE program, and they had the hearing test with tones and frequencies, but they also had these SRA cards, and this program was founded and run by this man named Robert Monroe. So he used sound frequencies. He was looking into astral projection, which is literally like your soul leaving your body, like traveling out of your body to other planes of existence. The astral projection is something that, a lot of people know how to do. It's a dangerous game to play with. Sometimes people can really mentally mess themselves up with doing this type of stuff, but they were apparently testing the effects of sound frequency, astral projection, guided meditation, hypnosis, states of consciousness, remote viewing, and ESP in children. Okay, what's the big deal, right? Well, another thing that all these kids have in common is that their memory of all of this is very, very blurry. They had completely forgot it. It was completely repressed. But something triggered the memory, but it's every one of them says a similar thing. They remember bits and pieces of this entire thing. Some of them were similar to what I remembered, and then there was some other stuff, which once I heard it, other things became a little bit I kind of do remember this entire thing being weird. I remember the computer and the cards, and then also there were a lot of people who remember this pink drink that they would have you drink after they perform these tests on you. What's the pink drink? Well, apparently it was a large dose of fluoride. Why is that significant? Well, fluorides, the big dark secret of why fluoride's used in the water supplies isn't because they're so concerned that we have nice, strong, healthy teeth. Because if there's any lessons I've taught you, is like we like to create industries that don't necessarily need to be as lucrative as they are, just so money can flow. So if I'm sure the dental union or association, whatever, the group of dentists are, that most of them would be anti putting fluoride in the water because that means more business for them. That's just the reality of how things work. The real reason is that fluoride calcifies the pineal gland in the brain. You might also know it as your third eye. What makes you remember the truth, and which allows you, once opened, to tap into all of your natural gifts and to know all of this crazy stuff exists in the world. That sure sounds exactly like something that the people in this country would absolutely do. There's no question in my mind that this entire thing is extremely sinister. Not to mention that, they would put you in hypnosis. I watched literally like a 15-second to 20-second clip of one of the videos that apparently they would have shown us. When I tell you, full body chills and tingles, it just immediately triggered something in my body that I've seen this before. I don't like it. It's not a question. They were basically finding the kids who had these supernatural abilities, which the astral projection, guided meditation, states of consciousness, sound frequencies, hypnosis, remote viewing, and ESP. The fact that they're studying this stuff to begin with should be the first indication that they know it can be done, that it's useful. They want to know more about it. So they're using us like lab rats to learn about this stuff. You might remember I talked about MK Ultra. Well, for all you people who said, that was back in the 50s or 60s, that no way that still doing that type of stuff. It turns out that MK Ultra turned into something called Stargate that I had very briefly talked about on one of the days, but didn't go into detail on it. But anyway, Stargate was basically just the extension of MK Ultra from 1970 to 1995, which the US military was very involved in. So much so that the US military went and did a bunch of, it was like syncing brain hemispheres and just a bunch of testing at the Monroe Institute. Remember that name, Monroe, Robert Monroe, the one who ultimately founded the Gateway program. So his institute worked with the military from 1970 to 1995, studying all this same stuff. So for 25 years, they're studying this stuff. And then even before that, they were doing it at MK Ultra, studying this stuff. So all of these people involved in MK Ultra, the staff who was doing it, wouldn't you know, the majority of them got transferred to this Stargate project. Basically, different name, working on the same stuff. Then, next thing you know, they start working in schools on the kids. A lot of kids from the 90s remember the same thing that I do. It's a very real program that exists with 35 or 40 years worth of military and privately funded research, and I'm sure the CIA very well aware of this information. So there's actually a paper that I found by the American Institute for Research. It's called An Evaluation of the Remote Viewing Program, Research and Operational Applications. It was written in September 22nd, 1995. So the officially Stargate went from 70 to 95. I would have taken one of these tests for the Gateway program before that, before it officially ended. So there would have been probably many, many kids who were tested on. I mean, basically it's mind control, mind altering, playing with kids' minds. And then ultimately, the ones that are gifted, giving them something to make them forget. Let's be perfectly clear on what I'm saying. Anyway, this was written September 22nd, 1995. It was released May 22nd, 2002. 178-page report, which I did not read. Like I've said, at a certain point, I don't need to sit there and waste my time reading every word of this document. I can feel it in my bones. I know already the story. I know all of this stuff is, this happens, it has happened for a long time, and I know my abilities, I know what my gifts are. I've gotten here. I know I was a part of this program and that they never wanted me to remember any of it. They wanted me to forget who I was my entire life. This is just one example of many that I will talk about, but I'm curious if, my heart murmur and the tests that I had to undergo continuously after my entire childhood, like, if that's just a convenient story of why I had to go get tested every year. Because as a grown-up, as an adult, I've been to many doctors who all check my heartbeat and everything, which I was told my heart was going to explode if I exerted myself too much, if this and that, just instilling fear into me about this. But apparently, I am a healer. Maybe I healed from it. Maybe I had a heart murmur and it went away. Or maybe it was just convenient cover for me to get hooked up to EKGs and undergo these testings every year, because they don't even detect it to the doctors I go to. Something to think about. But anyway, the Stargate program, which is like probably what they talk about in this document the most, U.S. Army unit in primarily the 70s and 80s, psychic phenomena. There's two main parts of the Stargate: psychic phenomena and AI infrastructure project. So I've written at least one article about psychic phenomena and how I've felt presences that were from a different realm. I will probably write another one giving another example of it. So I believe that is part of my abilities, that I have that within me. So if they would have tested for that stuff and I don't know if we consider pass or fail in their eyes, but if I was able to psychically, if I could do certain things, I would imagine I would be tested more, that I'd be on a list, and that they would give me that high dose of fluoride to close up my third eye, block my intuition and my gifts. I'm sure there's a lot of other kids that went through the same thing. Probably don't remember it. But in addition, the other thing that Stargate does is it has an AI infrastructure project, which is a national AI infrastructure. Like, this is the description. I don't really know what any of this means other than they're working on some stuff. It's a lot of money. Real quick, Stargate also, at one point, there were like other projects that all consolidated to Stargate in 1991. There was Gondola Wish, Grill Flame, Sunstake. They all, I guess, were finding similar things. So they combined them into Stargate. So the other part, other than the psychic phenomena stuff, all the things they were testing for, is this AI portion of it. So national AI infrastructure, some of the companies is OpenAI, SoftBank, Oracle, MGX, Microsoft, NVIDIA, and I can't even read my own writing on this one, A something M, I don't know what that is, but $500 billion spent over 4 years. 100 billion goes, I guess, to Abilene, Texas. I guess this project is to secure U.S. leadership in AI. I don't know if this is common knowledge or not, if other people have heard of this. I have no idea. I just found it interesting that, just like the space program that I talked about and that competition that's so dangerous, U.S. needs to lead the way in AI. What does that mean? Like, what's it going to lead to? Like, rushing to speed up this process and so much money, and I don't know. Like, most people really have no idea what any of this means. And all of it's just so secretive. So anyway, I talked about an evaluation of remote viewing program research and operational applications. 178 pages, Project Stargate, that they spent 25 years, MK Ultra, like at least a decade, 35 years of research. The overwhelming conclusion of this research paper: remote viewing and other things that they were studying had no useful application to the military or government. Just wasted 35 years testing on children in hospitals and unwilling participants all throughout the country and in the military, testing for almost 4 decades. None of it was useful. Yet, I know that to be a lie. This stuff absolutely is useful. It's exactly the stuff that these people use in their favor to control us. They have the information, they know everything, and they feed us fluoride to keep us asleep so they can take advantage of us. It's so blatantly obvious. Like, I've been building this web for 2 weeks. Literally every single thing is relevant to the others, like showing the patterns of repeated. It's just a matter of, like, it might not even be your choice not to be able to use your intuition or tap into your gifts. Like, not only do they do all the other things I talked about with like propaganda and yellow journalism and stuff to trick us and program us and condition us, but like, to me, this is a step that just goes so far over a line. I already knew that the school system itself was really just a training ground to the 9-to-5 slave life that was created literally in the early or late to early 1900s to basically have the labor force to work in the 9-to-5, create industries, to make these people wealthy and give them the power. But let me talk about, one, I know this stuff is real because I have gifts that are undeniable. I have the gift of being able to literally see things that people don't think I can possibly see. I can tap in to things that other people can't. And I can literally feel presence of people from other realms. And my connection to the divine is as strong as probably, I don't know. I said, I'm new to all this. I can't compare. I've been under attack my whole life. I haven't had a chance to ever learn or work with anybody else when it comes to this stuff. This is all self-taught. My own instincts and going down rabbit holes to piece this stuff together. But I know it's true. So now to get the last piece of the puzzle and then tell a little bit about the crazy life that I've lived. So talking about the good side of magic, or the tapping into your gifts, the God-given gifts that we have. Like everything, people use that stuff for evil. So they're doing all of this research, studying the human mind and remote viewing and ESP and psychic abilities. They're trying to suppress it all in the youth. Now let's talk about Aleister Crowley. 1875, he was born in 1947. He was an occultist and ceremonial magician, recruited into the British Intelligence Agency. Interesting. Hermetic Order of the Golden Dawn. Traveled to Egypt back. Egypt is a very mystical, spiritual place where there's a lot of hidden truths, ancient wisdom, things that actually exist, actually have power. Like, this stuff is real. The stories we've been told just cover up what's actually the truth. So, traveled to Egypt and I guess wrote something called the Book of Law, 1904, Egypt in Cairo, invoking ancient Egyptian deities. So, he's saying it, invoking ancient Egyptian deities, okay? Study of Islamic mysticism and Arabic. He, I guess, kind of created a religion called Thelema, why can't I say it? Sadomasochism. That's basically taking joy in deriving pain to others. I had a lot of trouble with that word. Traveled to China, then there wrote something called the Holy Books of Thelema. Was in Algeria and the rites of Elivis. He's a dark magician, black magic. I don't know what any of this stuff means. I've never looked into this side of any of this. So, but I'll make it make sense. Enochian magic, sex magic, evocation to the demon Sharanzan involving blood sacrifice. Then I guess he was in something called the Ordo Templi Orientis. That was like his, I guess, cult that he started, or order, if you will. Whatever, it's a secret organization that practices magic, right? That's what Ordo Templi Orientis is. That was just he was the head of the, I think, London. I think there's orders in different countries or something. He was the head of the one in London, if I'm not mistaken. So he was a part of Ordo Templi Orientis, which were based largely on Freemasonry. You mean Masonic? The exact cult, or whatever you want to call it, that I have kind of claimed all these people were in. So you're talking about the most famous dark magic, black magic practitioner of all time, who has all this information and like these things, that these spells and rituals and all this stuff that Aleister Crowley did. Remember, British intelligence agency. We're talking like remote viewing. We're talking being able to put like illusion spells, death spells, sex magic, like lust spells. Like all this stuff is a form of, that's why like the British intelligence agency, or the research of Stargate and MK Ultra, which was the CIA. They're learning how to use whatever altered states of consciousness, ESP, psychic abilities, all this stuff. They've basically, without saying it, showing us that it all exists. So all these people that are powerful and wealthy, like, they know they can use this stuff against us. The research, I find it highly unlikely that they found no useful application for remote viewing. Like, what does that mean? Like, being able to spy and watch somebody from a location far away from the place that they are. I've experienced things that I now know that's exactly what I was experiencing. Like, I picked it up in real time that something was absolutely going on. I've been led to all the right places to just conveniently find all of the right information that just seemingly all connects and points to the same conclusion, that there's so much going on, so much truth that we don't know. The world is very much so out of balance. Like their balance is, we're so far off course in the wrong direction. That's my mission. I said I'm not a pawn, I'm a king. I said it's in my DNA. It's written literally inside of me that I'm supposed to restore balance. I've talked about love and light, and I've survived death multiple times. Like, clearly there's when this actually happens and you guys see how many people are involved, it will be a miracle that I somehow got through this. So, with remote viewing and stuff too, and like this magic, and you can change how people see other people. You can make somebody look a certain way. Like, it's manipulation of the mind. Like I said, I've never done any of this stuff. I don't know what the spells are and stuff, but you could see somebody who likes control and is greedy and self-interested, how they might be attracted to learning this type of stuff. I 100% know that my ex-wife, in-laws, and all of the people, not all of the people, there's certain people who got tricked or are being controlled, that they're under their illusion. But there's an inner circle that are very much dark practitioners of this type of magic. And I would be willing to guess, just on my intuition, because it's immediately what I believed, is probably my ex-mother-in-law is likely like a high practicing dark priestess, like probably a 33rd degree master, like as powerful as they probably come when it comes to this stuff. Yet I somehow managed to outsmart all of them. The corruption, all of the lawyers, my landlord, the police officers, and all of my friends and family. I knew nothing about any of this stuff like 2 years ago. I feel like that's pretty miraculous. There's got to be more to the story, right? Well, the other day I talked about how I remembered like how I felt about my childhood and just never felt right to me. Clearly I knew that the last decade or 12 years of my life was basically escaping these people that I realized were not good people. I wanted to be on my own, live in peace. But that's when all the weird stuff started happening. I'm building my nonprofit, and I never connected the bridge. I couldn't fill in the gap that made it all click. Till the other night I had a dream. Like Martin Luther King, I had a dream. I got in a fight. There were some other people in the dream, I won't name them, make them sweat it out a little bit, but I know who they are. But the main character of the dream, and who I had a fight with, was my original boss when I was right out of school. She was a commercial real estate appraiser in Philadelphia that my dad insisted I at least go to this networking thing. And I magically got this job that I knew immediately I didn't like. It felt wrong. But I stayed there for 8 years, miserable, running these projects and doing these appraisal reports. I had a sudden burst of motivation to chase my dreams and do something, find something that I love. So I took a risk. I was bold and quit that job, only to get pushed into working for the family business that I many times said I didn't want to work for. Funny enough, my ex-wife enters my life during that period. Then you guys know the rest of the story. I was thinking, as I came back to Pennsylvania from Florida, something didn't sit right with how quickly my parents came and were willing to institutionalize me, how they crossed my boundaries, how they didn't trust that I knew what I was doing, all of the things. They just claimed they were concerned about me. It was a mistake. I never fully bought that. Now I know that's not the case. A lot more to the story. I come back. They want me to just move on. Stop talking about all this. So I have a conversation with my dad a couple times and start noticing some things. Reminded me a lot of things from the childhood. Trying to talk about certain things he didn't want to talk about, and then I would see his true colors come out. And I would see how much they were all gaslighting me and they were still lying. They couldn't figure it out, and then I realized I wasn't just being controlled the last decade, it's been my entire life. I'm going to build the suspense and end it here, maybe do a third video. I actually have to use the bathroom real quick, so I'll be right back.